It's unlikely Tom Hardy's Venom will ever make his way to the MCU, but that doesn't mean the door isn't open for potential crossovers or clever ways to implement the symbiote into the MCU. The alien goo is more than just Venom, and we thought up a few ways it could have an impact on the MCU. Before we get started, make sure you click on that subscribe button and hit the notification bell to stay up to date with everything ScreenRant. Agent Venom. Agent Venom is quite honestly one heck of a cool design, but is constantly overshadowed by the iconic imagery of Eddie's Venom. Thankfully for the MCU, the man behind this symbiote has already appeared in the MCU. Even more convenient, he's already been in a Spider-Man movie. In Spider-Man Homecoming, Peter Parker is consistently bullied by the school's resident douchebag Flash Thompson. Played by Tony Revolori, he's radically different than how he's often depicted in the comics, but he's still a Class A jerk in the movie. In the comics, Flash and Peter actually grow to become friends once they get out of the terrible life experience known as high school. Flash goes on to serve in Iraq, where he loses both his legs and suffers from alcoholism. But it's not the end of the line for Flash, oh no. He ends up playing host to a symbiote, specifically Venom. Unlike Eddie Brock, who instantly became a villain before becoming an anti-hero, Flash became Agent Venom and was a superhero from the get-go. He only stays bonded with Venom for 48 hours, lest the sinister nature of the symbiote take over, which in turn leads to some pretty horrific moments if Flash doesn't keep an eye on how long he's in the suit. Can Marvel get on this movie now, please? VENOMPOOL. Deadpool has had a roller coaster of experiences in the comic books, and none of them was as outrageous as when he crossed paths with the Venom symbiote. In 2018, Disney acquired 20th Century Fox, leading many to believe that the X-Men brand will become one with the MCU. There has been no direct confirmation that this will or will not be the case, but let's just assume here that the mutants can now call the MCU home. That means that the Merc with the Mouth will pitch his tent in the Disney castle. Come on, this stuff is writing itself. Anyway, we digress, and we think that the potential partnership with Disney could be interesting in that we could perhaps see VENOMPOOL on the big screen. How could this happen, you ask, since the alternate history VENOMPOOL takes place in the 80s? Well, thanks to Cable showing up in Deadpool 2, we know that time travel is possible, so Wade could definitely go back in time to visit the 80s. Venom Hulk. There's a series of comics under the Marvel banner known as What If, and allows for some crazy stories to be told. One of them sees the Venom symbiote fuse with none other than the Incredible Hulk. In this comic run, the symbiote is in desperate need of a new host and ends up desperately clinging to a weakened Hulk, becoming Venom Hulk. And who do you think Venom Hulk comes into contact with shortly after? That's right, his galactic space buddy Thor. Thor Ragnarok proved to everyone that wacky space adventures between Thor and Hulk should become a thing now, and we really hope to see the duo team up again in the future. If they do, having them under a crisis like this would prove to be most entertaining and would be an excellent setup for a potential sequel. The world needs more Hulk after all. Furthermore, the Venom symbiote decides to bail out on the Hulk and take over Thor himself at one point. Having one of the most powerful heroes in the MCU fall to the Venom symbiote could prove to be a pretty interesting twist in Phase 4, assuming Thor is alive in Phase 4. Please be alive. Cross-studio partnership. Currently, Venom and Eddie Brock are at home at Sony Pictures, while the rest of the MCU are living under the banner of Marvel and Disney and have proven to be one powerhouse couple. Tom Holland's Spider-Man is working as something of a bridge between the two studios. Technically speaking, Spider-Man is still home at Sony, he's just on loan to the MCU. There are a bunch of fine print details, but that's why you see the Sony logos roll before Spider-Man Homecoming, and we'll likely see them again when Spider-Man Far From Home hits the big screen in 2019. At this point, Spidey is in the MCU, but Venom isn't, with the symbiote's first solo cinematic romp doing well financially but faring poorly with critics and many fans. Perhaps Eddie can also end up finding a home at the MCU, which would only strengthen the idea of cross-studio productions. Spider-Verse. We're all really excited for the upcoming animated Spider-Man movie Into the Spider-Verse. That film stars Miles Morales, but also features Peter Parker and a bunch of other Spider-Folks from other multiverses. Considering that there are numerous Spider-Men and women living in the multiverse, and living at multiple film studios, could we not assume that there may be other Venoms in that same multiverse? If so, what's stopping the storytellers from creating a new Venom that's not Tom Hardy's iteration of Eddie Brock? We know there's a bunch of legal mumbo-jumbo to contend with, but if the MCU simply creates a new character and avoids words like symbiote and Venom, they could likely get away with it. Think about how Marvel got away with using Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch without ever using those names or the terms mutants in Age of Ultron. What's stopping Marvel from using loopholes like this for their other movies? We're pretty certain that fans will not complain to see another version of Venom on the big screen sharing the same universe as the MCU. Gwenom. We can look forward to seeing Spider-Gwen, aka Gwen Stacey, in the upcoming movie Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which features Miles Morales as the lead character. We also have already met Gwen a few times on the big screen. Bryce Dallas Howard portrayed the character in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 3, and she was Parker's main love interest in the Amazing Spider-Man series played by Emma Stone. In the comics, she is Peter's first true love but tragically dies. But thanks to the multiverse, Gwen lives on in another reality, and in Earth 65, she's known as Spider-Gwen. She now operates in the main continuity after the events of Secret Wars, a comic book event that destroyed many of the other realities. Now that she's on Earth 616, she's come into contact with the Venom symbiote and has become Gwenom. Since Gwen hasn't shown up in the MCU yet, it's totally possible that Marvel could introduce her and slowly build up her transition into Spider-Gwen. But instead of having her die like in Amazing Spider-Man 2, she falls from grace and becomes something Peter has to fight. Honestly, we'd just love to see Gwen on the big screen, as both her Gwenom and Spider-Gwen designs are awesome. Crossover with Spider-Man. This is the one that everyone wants, right? Tom Hardy was great as Eddie Brock, but the film ended on a huge cliffhanger that got everyone wondering. Spoilers ahead here, so you've been warned. In the after-credits scene, Eddie Brock visits none other than Cletus Cassidy in prison. Fans of the comics will instantly know that Cassidy is the murdering convict who will don the Carnage suit. Now, Carnage is an interesting fellow. He's sure sadistic evil, and he's much stronger than Venom on the comic book page. So much so that Venom needs backup to take him on. That backup is, of course, your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. There's just one problem though, and yep, you guessed it, studios. The best possible outcome for having Carnage on the big screen is to have a crossover event of sorts that allows Spider-Man to come into Venom's universe, or have Venom and Carnage make their way to New York and to the MCU. But in all honesty, how many people would be there day one to see Venom and Spider-Man fight Carnage on the big screen? Everyone? Yeah, that's what we thought. The film could be a co-production between Marvel and Sony and would give fans exactly what they want. Guardians of the Galaxy Partnership. Yep, you heard that right. In the comics, Agent Venom himself ends up as the newest member of the Guardians of the Galaxy. The fate of the Guardians remains something of a mystery in the MCU right now, with most of the membership dying in the dusting at the end of Infinity War. Further complicating things was the firing of director James Gunn, which put the release of Volume 3 on hold and its future in question. But let's say that all ends up working for Peter Quill and company, and that we get to see Volume 3 and maybe even 4 in the future. We can likely assume that Adam Warlock will have some role to play in these sequels, as he was teased in the after credits of Volume 2. But the Guardians membership is always growing, and why not get another Earthboy on the team? As stated, Flash Thompson is already in the MCU thanks to his appearance in Homecoming, so if he should ever become Agent Venom, then it's as simple as getting him into space and joining forces with the Space Misfits. We don't think anyone thought Guardians of the Galaxy would become as popular as they are now, but having one of the Venoms share the big screen with them would basically print money, and we're totally on board if Marvel should ever attempt this. Venomized Thanos. The big bad of the entire MCU is without a doubt Thanos. We know all about him thanks to the insane success that Infinity War had in 2018 that helped put the man with the unusual chin on the map. And while most people only know Thanos through his quest to get all the Infinity Stones, there is so much more to the Mad Titan than that, and so many different iterations of him. Most recently, we got a comic book arc called Venomized, which saw the alien symbiote taking over just about everyone in the entire Marvel roster. The symbiote spread like a virus, and many of our favorite Marvel characters became venomized. And while it was awesome to see Venom versions of Wolverine and Captain America, for example, seeing the Mad Titan become one with the symbiote takes the cake. At this point, we have no idea how Avengers 4 will play out, but we can assume that Thanos is likely defeated and the snap undone. But what if Thanos doesn't die? We think it'd be pretty awesome to have Thanos retreat for a few years, only to come back covered in symbiote ready for more. The MCU doesn't have to explicitly say venomized or symbiote, but the visual reference will be enough to shock fans. Black Suit Spider-Man. We've seen this story arc play out before in Spider-Man 3, but how many people really love that entry by director Sam Raimi? Let's be honest, it was definitely the weakest of the three movies, and many fans felt it didn't do the iconic black suit any justice. In case you don't know, Peter Parker ends up playing host to the alien symbiote and is bestowed the black suit that thankfully has no tendrils. It's also a much more aggressive and powerful suit, and having it play off Parker's normally friendly and passive attitudes was a treat indeed, at least in the comics. With Spider-Man currently operating within the MCU, wouldn't it be awesome to have Tom Holland don the black suit by the time we get the MCU's third entry? While the continuity of events are already different on the big screen than how they were in the comics, namely Eddie getting the symbiote after Parker is done with it, the writers can still find a way to bridge the two characters together. In turn, the iconic black suit would be the storyline that gets Tom Hardy's Venom to cross over into the MCU. And even if that doesn't happen, we're quite certain fans would love to see the symbiote play some sort of role in the MCU, and the black suit would likely have the biggest effect. So, which aspect of Venom would you like to see in the MCU? Do you think any of these options could sneak their way to the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Or are the rights to Venom too secure at Sony with no chance to see the likes of Flash or a crossover? Let us know how you'd like to see Venom in the MCU, and be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel to get more videos like this in your playlist every day. Thanks for watching.